All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're descending into a world where the monsters aren't just lurking in the shadows. No, they're philosophers, they're bureaucrats, and they're the whispers inside your own head. This is the Despair of Reanimation.
We've all thought about it, right? It's the ultimate fantasy. Being able to defy death. The power to bring someone back. To just rewrite that final terrible chapter.
But the world we're looking at today, it twists that fantasy into an absolute nightmare. It hits you with a much more disturbing question. What if some doors are meant to stay shut for a damn good reason? And that brings us to our first big idea. This isn't just about whether we should or shouldn't bring people back. This is a philosophy of pure, unfiltered dread coming straight from the mind of a necromancer. This quote just cuts right to the bone. See, the necromancer isn't really worried about the how of reanimation. Their obsession is with the terrifying, empty silence that comes right after the then what? Yeah, this isn't about some time travel paradox you'd see in a movie. The source material makes it pretty clear that the real horror is existential. I mean, if you bring someone back to a meaningless, awful existence, what have you really accomplished? This right here, this is the core of the necromancer's entire worldview. They call it silent hopelessness. It's the belief that existence itself is just a barren wasteland. Life is pointless aggression. Death is just nothing. There's no prize, no victory, just emptiness on both sides of the grave. And this is the ultimate challenge they throw at you. Why bother? Why go through all the trouble of revival? Why piece back together what they call the rotting ashes of despair just to throw them back into a world of insanity? It's a question with no easy answer, that's for sure. So moving into our next section, the horror just keeps building. Because it's not just about the undead. You could argue that the truly terrifying monsters are the ones that are still very much alive. So on one side, you've got the classic monster, right? The reanimated corpse. But on the other, you have something so much more insidious. The opportunist who enables evil just to make a buck, and the twisting of language itself to make atrocities sound, well, normal. So let's meet our first living horror, the mini-monster. This thing is a chameleon. It has no beliefs, no loyalty, none of that. Its only master is currency and its own survival. It sees one future, its own, and it will do anything or shill for anyone to make sure it gets there. And here's its playbook. It'll gladly enable an atrocity, but the second the political winds change, it just switches sides. No big deal. It calls the shape-shifting intelligence and will happily kiss the boots of whoever's in power, all to keep its own status safe. It's horror by spreadsheet, a kind of evil that feels chillingly familiar, not from some old myth, but from the cold logic of modern cruelty. Now for our second living monster. And this one doesn't use claws or fangs. Its weapon is way, way more dangerous. It's language. Its whole purpose is to soften the edges of evil, to use linguistics to make horrible things sound acceptable. And its process is terrifyingly simple. You take a concept, something like malevolence, and through clever linguistic tricks, you can actually make it mean the opposite, love. You hide what you're doing, and pretty soon you have an entire population that actively justifies doing harm because the very words they use have been poisoned. It's a scary reminder of how easily language can be turned into a weapon. Okay. So, we've gone from existential dread and systemic evil, and now we're going to the most personal horror of all. What happens when your own will to live is turned against you? This question really gets to the core of our third monster's power. I mean, the survival instinct is the most basic drive we have. So what happens when a creature can just flip that switch off? The mage goblin's power is just a total violation of the self. It doesn't just make you want to die, it makes you crave a painful, gruesome end. It's a sickness of the will itself, an internal nightmare brought to life. It's the ultimate loss of control, where your most fundamental instinct is hijacked and used against you. And the goblin's own words just highlight how awful this is. It's almost musing to itself about how irrational it all is. Who would rationally want that? The monster seems so detached, almost clinical, which somehow makes the unnatural desire it creates even more terrifying. And so, here we are at the end. After exploring all these different kinds of horror, philosophical, systemic, psychological, we're left with one final, crushing thought that ties it all together. This line from the necromancer just brings everything full circle. It completely blurs the line between life and death, and perfectly captures the total despair of this world. If being alive just means you're treated like you're already gone, then what's left to hold on to? And so we end here. Is the real monster the one who raises the dead? Or is it the opportunist, the linguistic terrorist, or the whisper that makes you turn on yourself? In a world this soaked in despair, the definition of monsters starts to get terrifyingly blurry.